Secret Place, a short story by Tim Harvey. This true story is set in the sleepy market town of Hungerford in Berkshire, back in 1973, and the author tells the story. When I was about 12, back in 1973, I used to play in a very special hidden place. Very few people in my hometown of Hungerford know of my secret domain, as it is located off the beaten track beyond Freeman's Marsh. I used to spend many hours there amongst the derelict buildings, water and foliage, locked within my fertile imagination and sense of grand adventure. I remember the hot summer day that I first came across the old trout farm. I had planned to spend the day on the marsh building dams in the numerous streams and swimming in the cool crystal clear water, but it seemed that each place I went to, other local children had already staked their claim. Therefore I kept on moving towards the edge of the marsh in search of my own private play space. I knew of a broad shallow stream that few people ever visited towards the western end of the marsh. The stream was too wide to build a dam and too shallow to paddle in. The cows favoured this location as an ideal drinking spot, and therefore the adjacent grass banks were usually covered in cowpats. When dry they made ideal frisbees and flying saucers. But sadly this spot was also occupied by a courting couple, so I took a wide berth around them as they were trying to eat each other's faces and sneaked into the dense undergrowth towards the railway embankment. To my surprise I came across a crossing point that was guarded with numerous signs designed to keep children out like me off the railway. Ignoring the signs, I climbed over the stile, a type of gate, and clambered up the steep railway embankment, feeling the heat of the angry stones reflecting upon my face. As adults, we always can give the name of one teacher that really made an impression upon us. My teacher was Mr Priestley in Hungerford Primary School, who inspired my imagination and filled my mind with useless facts. Indeed, his teaching style has influenced my own, as I insist that the children in my care receive exposure to a wide range of facts and general knowledge. I remember one day during a rather dull maths lesson, Mr Priestley, who was obviously getting bored, announced, "Children, do you know how to detect if a train is coming from over 2 miles away?" "No, Mr Priestley," we chorused in a unison, hoping that he would wheel in the piano and take it apart again for us. This usually lasted a whole hour and helped to pass the time. "Well, you have to take care doing this, as it's rather dangerous, and I shouldn't really be telling you this," he said in a secret intonation, so that the headmaster, Mr Davis, if passing, would not hear. We all listened attentively to this forbidden fruit of knowledge. He continued, carefully looking towards the glass panel in the classroom door that led to the hall beyond. "Right, so first you check to see if a train's coming. It would be rather obvious, so you will hear the noise of the metal wheels on the tracks, and then you'll see it. If all is still and quiet, just place your ear on the track and you will start to hear if a train is coming or not, as sound travels better in a solid rather than in the air." Yes, I remember many things about Mr Priestley. But back to the story. When I was at the top of the embankment, Mr Priestley's advice came into mind. I looked either way along the dual railway track and could see no trains. I listened but could only hear the calls of nature and children playing in the water at a distance. I carefully placed my ear on the track but regretted it as the hot metal burnt my ears. After a quick rub, it was better, and I poured some water from my flask on my ear and onto the rail to cool it down. I repeated the process and heard the faint sound of metal upon metal. I quickly moved back to the comparative safety of the hedgerow and waited. Sure enough, a fast express train approached some minutes later and split the balmy air into two for the briefest of moments. Once gone, the air returned to its balmy state. When all was clear, I crossed the railway track and clambered down the other side. At the bottom was another stile, which launched me into a field of ripe corn. I carefully walked along the edge, trying not to damage the ears of corn, until I came to a sort of dense woodland. There appeared to be no way in, and the hot summer sun was beginning to burn my fair skin, so it was imperative that I found some shade sooner rather than later. I had abandoned hope of ever finding water, as I was some distance away from the marshland, within this parched, barren landscape, only observed by a solitary sparrowhawk hovering above. I knew this land was private property, but other needs prevailed. To my complete surprise, I found a small gap in the thick hedgerow and forced my way in. Before me was a dense mixed woodland in a ravine, and the ground covered to fall away, as though the woodland was hiding a small ravine. I carefully made my way down to the slope, towards the sound of the running water. Again, a surprise, as I didn't know of any water in these parts, but I do remember Mr Priestley telling us that all of Hungerford's water comes from underground, and the water is trapped beneath a thick layer of chalk. What I saw took my breath away. Before me was a spring, probably about 3 meters square and 1.5 meters deep, covered with an umbrella of verdant foliage. The water was crystal clear, and the base was free of all life, only sand and a small L-shaped iron pipe coming out of the ground. It reminded me of a sulphurous hot water spring from Iceland. The water was diverted into numerous concrete channels, which went off in different directions. This structure was hidden within the woodland, and the sunlight cast peculiar shadows over the features as it broke through the dense leaves, illuminating my own magical wonderland. As I was so hot, without hesitation I jumped into the cold water, which hit me like 1,000 knives, and I floated around my own personal jacuzzi, trying not to scream out in pleasure or pain. The sensation of the cold spring water upon my sunburnt body, coming up from the central pipe, was most unusual and gave me goosebumps, but the taste of the water was superb. I spent several minutes in the water, enjoying the sensation of the sand between my toes, rather than the usual sharp stones that the marshland rivers offer. I then climbed out and lay in the only patch of true sunlight to dry my clothes. The peaceful surroundings, warmth and physical exertion eventually sent me to sleep. I woke to a symphony of colour, green, brown, gold and silver, and my heart soared, yet I knew I shouldn't be there. I paddled along one of the 5 concrete channels and found myself at an abandoned derelict wooden cabin. I peered in through the window and saw that it had not been used for many years. Within were a brown wooden stool, a small crumbling table, and russet-burn rotting leaves that had made their way through the numerous gaps within the roof. Having made an innocent judgment that the structure was indeed safe, I went inside and had a good look around. My keen historical brain decided that the hut was last used on the 23rd of May 1948, as a discarded newspaper offered this wild assumption for my continuing pleasure. During the course of that magical afternoon in August 1973, I came across another 2 similar huts in different states of decay, the direct cause of their location within its humid confines. But I could not solve the mystery of my adventure's theme park's original function. I had numerous theories ranging from a watercress farm to a secret agent's hideout, but the reality would have to wait until the autumn term, when Mr Priestley, the font of all knowledge, would reveal this mystery. I spent the rest of the afternoon exploring, swimming, and building a dam within one of the channels. I was in paradise. Over the next few years, I went back to the old trout farm many times, but as time passed, I forgot its mystery and adult life called. I do remember one day as I was revising for my A-levels, making my last journey. All was visually familiar, yet its magic and mystery had dissolved into pending adulthood. All I saw were 3 huts in advanced state of disrepair, a dirty spring, a rusty pipe, and lots of mud. Sometimes I wish that I had not made that final journey, and left that particular memory to the innocence of my childhood.